Welcome to Paxton's definitive guide to COVID secure buildings with Net2 access control. Today's webinar has been designed to share information regarding the government guidelines released in May entitled Working Safely During COVID-19. These guidelines have been produced to guide employers in reducing the risk of infection to employees and visitors whilst returning to the workplace. Over the course of the next 30 minutes, I'll introduce and explain the impact of the government requirements provided to all employers in accordance with making the workplace COVID-19 secure. I'll share with you the opportunity that these requirements represent from both an ethical and commercial perspective. I'll explain how Net2 can be deployed to address the requirements, and I'll advise how Paxton will support installers in taking these solutions to market. In response to supporting people returning to work during the COVID-19 pandemic, the UK government has produced documentation entitled Working Safely During COVID-19 for 8 industry sectors. And these are construction and outdoor work, factories, plants and warehouses, labs and research facilities, offices and contact centres, restaurants offering takeaway or delivery, shops and branches, in or from a vehicle, and other people's homes. Whilst these documents do not supersede any legal or health and safety obligations, they do identify in section 1.1 of each document that all employers have a duty to reduce workplace risk to the lowest reasonably practical level by taking preventative measures. The following certification must be signed by employers, made visible on premises, and for companies of over 50 people, it's expected to be displayed on company websites in acknowledgement that the employer has carried out the 5 working safe steps. Before signing this document, employers must conduct a full COVID-19 risk assessment and implement changes in line with the corresponding industry sector guidelines. With the introduction of these safety measures, we're presented with significant opportunity. As a manufacturer of technology and in partnership with installation companies, we have an opportunity to positively contribute to protecting people against COVID-19. Every building type identified in these documents across the country must implement these measures to comply with the guidelines, which means that opportunity exists right now as key decision makers in companies are making decisions on how to safely transition people back to work. And this means that you have an opportunity to revisit all of your past installations, as well as advise on present and future opportunities to support compliance with these guidelines. To fully implement effective safety measures in buildings, access control has a key role to play. As a manufacturer that's been established for over 35 years, we believe we're a trusted partner to the installer base. We stand by our products and solutions and are well equipped with our dedication to support and simplicity to give you confidence in taking our products to the market. We're proud to be a UK-based manufacturer, and by manufacturing our own products, we can confidently stand by our quality. By being based in the UK, we commit to products being available when you need them. And right now, we believe we have an opportunity and an obligation to help protect people and contribute responsibly in supporting our country's economic recovery. Net2 has been a successful product in the UK for some time and is installed in thousands of buildings each year. This means that many of you are familiar with the systems, as are the end users. This allows you to contact all existing sites and offer your services to update existing systems to help make them COVID secure efficiently. We've carefully reviewed all of the 8 working safely during COVID-19 government documents, And for the purpose of this webinar, we've consolidated the requirements that most relate to access control. It's important to note that employers will be reviewing many elements such as signage, walkways, as well as redesigning floor plan layouts to ensure social distancing can be maintained, all of which are complemented by the effective use of access control. We've built 4 simple solutions that can be deployed to address the specific requirements, and we'll walk through each of these during the webinar. When reviewing the documents, we find that only 6 of the 8 industry sectors are relevant to access control. We've excluded working from and in a vehicle and other people's homes. Within the 6 documents, we've consolidated the requirements which are common throughout each of the government guidelines. These are: managing risk. Employers have a duty to reduce workplace risk to the lowest reasonably practical level by taking preventative measures. Coming to and leaving work. To maintain social distancing wherever possible on arrival and departure, and to ensure hand washing upon arrival. Moving around buildings and work sites. To maintain social distancing wherever possible while people travel through the workplace. Managing customers, visitors, and contractors. Where site visits are required, site guidance on social distancing and hygiene should be explained to visitors on or before arrival. Shift patterns and working groups. To change the way work is organised to create distinct groups and reduce the number of contacts each worker has. And inbound and outbound goods. To maintain social distancing and avoid surface transmission when goods enter and leave the site. To demonstrate how Net2 can be used to help employers meet the government guidelines, we've built 5 simple to deploy solutions. The solutions we'll look at are contactless access control, flexible access permissions, occupancy management, thermal scanning, and checkpoint control. As we move through the solutions, you'll see on the slides the specific government guidelines they support and the Paxton products required to build the solution. So our first solution, contactless access control. The government guidelines under section 3.1 and 8 sets out expectations that alternatives to touch-based security must be provided and that no alternatives are found for entry and exit points where appropriate for staff and goods. Contactless access control avoids unhygienic common touch points such as doors, keypads, and handles. You have an option to utilize long-range readers or hands-free interfaces. These can be used to open entry points from a distance to avoid breaching social distancing guidelines in areas such as blind spots. You can use standard proximity readers. Proximity readers and cards need no physical connection. And the use of an IR exit button or PIR detector in a combination with an automatic door opener and closer offers true touchless entry and exit, as this eliminates any need to touch the door handle. To see how we can achieve contactless access control, let's use the example here of a call center environment. Here we have a single entrance and exit point for staff, all using a proximity and PIN reader. All staff will need to pass through daily. With this level of traffic, all having to touch the keypad and the door handle to move through the door represents a risk. The use of a Paxton proximity reader and an automated door opener and closer reduces the need for anyone to touch the door. The same can be applied to internal doors. If the door is not set up to be read in and read out with a second reader, a simple low-cost, no-touch IR exit button can be installed. The opportunity to add access control to an additional entry and exit point and reduce traffic per access point will reduce the risk of transferring infection to others. A further option is to have the ability to open internal doors, shutter doors for deliveries, or perimeter gates automatically from a safe distance. This can be achieved by utilizing long-range readers or hands-free interfaces. Our second solution is to look at the flexible access permissions within Net2. By building a solid knowledge and understanding of the possibilities with Net2's flexible access permissions, we gain the most comprehensive coverage of the government guidelines across all industry sectors. Effective use of Net2's access permissions can allow us to adhere to sections 3.1, 3.24 and 7.1. And this is possible by using the software to support staggered start and finish times. By adjusting time zones, we can reduce the number of people entering and leaving work at the same time, enhancing the possibility of maintaining social distancing and reducing congregation around common entry points. We can facilitate the creation of one-way systems in buildings to aid social distancing. Again, to maintain social distancing, remove the ability to pass back through doors in narrow walkways. Only allow access for specific approved people to aid the management of return to work. This ensures only permitted people can return to work and denies access to people who are not permitted to return. We can allow segmentation of staff in order to prevent cross-contamination, restrict permissions to essential areas only, and deny access to common areas or areas in which distancing measures cannot be maintained. Enforces different entrance and exit points for different staff, therefore only allow people to enter areas deemed safe or that allow screening to take place. An individual or group permissions can be set to manage groups of people and groups of entry and access points. This allows us to use the software to efficiently manage door permissions or access levels. To outline how flexible access permissions are in helping protect people in the workplace, we'll use the example of a typical office environment. Net2's flexible access permissions allow us to manage shift patterns by adjusting the start and finish times of individuals or groups in the time zone section of the software. By implementing such changes, we can reduce the number of people at common entry or exit points at the same time. In addition, you can adjust access levels to only allow access to the appropriate people at the appropriate time via the designated entry and exit point. By building different groups of users, a separate entrance point can be determined for visitors to ensure staff and visitors remain separated until in a safe meeting area. Specific reference is made in the government documents regarding creating a one-way flow of people to support social distancing. By working in combination with visual aids such as signage, a one-way flow of traffic can be enforced by adjusting access levels or disabling exit buttons as the mode for exit. Only allowing access for specified people to aid the return to work process can be implemented by updating the user record with the valid from date in the user profile. A further step could be to update their profiles with key information, for example, the date they've been tested for infection. Access rights can be set to expire at a specific time or date in which people need to provide updated test results. Sites can be separated into different work zones, multiple floors or buildings by creating door groups, ensuring that specific departments can only enter their designated workspaces. By using door groups, system administrators can see departments, floors or buildings as a group of doors to which access levels can be applied to manage as necessary. Our third solution is to look at the effective use of occupancy management. This is a newly developed feature for Net2 released in version 6.04 on July the 7th and has been specifically developed to help protect against COVID-19. The way this feature works is very similar to using roll call within Net2. Occupancy Manager aids social distancing by restricting the number of employees that can enter a workspace or area. The Occupancy Manager can be used in several different scenarios. It allows us to control the maximum number of people in any area to aid social distancing. This is useful when managing areas of a building that have many people working in and moving throughout it. Dynamic control of entry permissions based on occupancy level. We can set and define occupancy levels and manage these via a choice of actions. You can decide to deny access when levels are reached, or utilize email or text notification to a designated person or people when the occupancy level has been exceeded. A third choice would be to use these simultaneously. The feature supports a one-in, one-out methodology when maximum occupancy has been reached. This feature has many use cases ranging from large work areas down to small changing areas or narrow corridors. Multiple areas can be independently monitored and controlled simultaneously, meaning that multiple occupancy levels can be set to monitor specific areas. You can have a live report for each of the area showing current occupancy levels. In Net2, you can create a viewable web page, which means you can easily browse to it via a network monitor. You can use the Occupancy Manager in combination with input-output boards to trigger a traffic light system to help give a clear visual indication when an area is free to enter or at maximum occupancy. This feature is backwards compatible and will work with the Pro software only. The Occupancy Manager feature allows us to adhere to points 3.1, 3.2, and 4 of the government guidelines across each of the industry sectors. To provide an example of its use, we'll look at a potential installation on a construction site. At a managed entrance and exit point to the site, we see people using their tokens to pass through the turnstile. At points across the site, screens are visible to see the current occupancy levels on site, and the traffic light remains green, giving a clear indication that access is still permitted. At the point that the occupancy level is reached, access has been denied to the next person at the entry point. The traffic light turns red and the foreman of the site has received a message alert. A further example of using the occupancy management feature would be to look at a typical manufacturing facility where we have multiple people moving around a building that's been partitioned into specific functional areas. We can see here we're able to segment the different areas of the building by identifying the dedicated entrance and exit point per area, and that we can have multiple screens designated to each area. This means that multiple areas can be monitored live at the same time. Our fourth solution for today's webinar is regarding the use of Net2 in combination with thermal scanning. Currently in the industry, thermal cameras are seeing a significant rise in demand directly due to the symptom associated with COVID-19 of a consistently raised temperature. It's important to note at this point that thermal scanning alone does not address any of the government guidelines. However, by utilising thermal scanning in combination with access control, we're able to introduce an opportunity to further reduce risk in the workplace by denying access to people identifying with a heightened temperature that may put others at risk. By doing so, we can help towards confirming all staff and visitors do not have a fever before entering the premises, and we can protect staff from infection. I'll start by briefly running through how the integration works. As of now, we have evaluated 3 manufacturers' solutions. They are Hick and Dower, with the part numbers shown on the screen, and also with ZK Teco, which is a popular brand in the US. At this stage, the integration is a hardware-only integration. Further work is taking place to enable database exchange to cut out the need for dual enrollment. This will be released in the coming weeks. The application notes of how to build integration will be available after today's webinar. So the HIC solution works in 3 modes, which are temperature only, token, which is my fare and temperature, and facial recognition and temperature. The DAWA solution has the same 3. So we have temperature only, facial recognition and temperature, and token plus temperature. These different modes mean that there's lots of flexibility surrounding the use of thermal camera modules and Net2. For example, there's no need to reissue cards on existing sites, as you can choose to bypass using tokens or simply wire a Net2 reader into the camera module to save reissuing tokens should your customer want to utilize token and temperature and already has Paxton tokens on site. The basic premise of the integration is for Net2 to allow or deny access based on the thermal camera module, validating a credential such as the person's face and providing a temperature check to ensure the person is not above the safe threshold of 37.8 degrees Celsius and passing the message to the Net2 controller. It's important to note that the user will need valid access permissions within Net2 to avoid Net2 denying access, even when a valid credential and a safe temperature has been registered by the unit. To illustrate the effective use of the integration, we'll use the example here of a research facility. We have a thermal scanner at the entry point within reception and one set up at the entrance to a specific laboratory room within the premises. The entrance is managed by a turnstile, and upon the presentation of a valid token and a thermal scan under the threshold, access is granted. By having a second scanning point, we can identify if anyone develops symptoms whilst in the workplace. Should access be denied, that individual can self-identify to the relevant person or department and then follow their own company guidelines. In September, with the release of software version 6.05, we launched another new feature for Net2, which is checkpoint control. This supports COVID secure sites and helps protect staff and visitors by monitoring and approving people as they return to work. Checkpoint control allows you to create checkpoints within a building where staff and visitors must be validated before they can access other areas, which helps enforce health and safety guidelines and protects user well-being. A site can assign temporary access levels to one or more users, which will remain in place until they have been validated, allowing them to move freely around the building. This can help ensure they are wearing adequate personal protective equipment, have had a safe temperature check, or completed their return to work induction. The new feature allows Net2 to be configured so that users can only access reception or a designated area before a full site validation. Once additional safeguards have been met, the user has been validated through the Net2 software. Usual access rights are reinstated for as long as required. Multiple checkpoints can be configured on site to allow ultimate control of the system. When used in combination with Net2's Occupancy Management feature, checkpoint control can help avoid overcrowding and supports social distancing. That concludes the main body of the webinar and 4 solutions that demonstrate how a simple Net2 deployment provides protection against COVID-19 in the workplace and supports employers implementing effective changes to adhere to the government guidelines. Before I take you through the frequently asked questions, I'd like to summarize by sharing key points of the session and the next steps. We've talked through simple but highly effective solutions that, when implemented, help conform with the government guidelines around working safely during COVID-19. We cannot iterate enough the point that we have to act now. Decisions are being made as we speak on building safety, meaning that this opportunity exists now and will not be around forever. This represents one of the biggest opportunities in our industry. Every company, meaning all of your past and current installations, must implement the solutions such as those we've seen today to protect staff against COVID-19 in the workplace. To support you, all attendees of today's webinar will be sent an email containing a link to the landing area on our website. The page contains all the application notes to act as the how-to guide for each of the main features covered in today's webinar. These application notes will include the related notes to thermal camera integration and the occupancy management feature. We've produced a digital end user guide for you to download that helps support the process of talking your customers through the available solutions. We provided links to each of the industry sector guidelines that were referenced in today's webinar that may also aid your discussions with your customers. Our support team, as ever, is on hand to help you with any inquiries, and they've been prepared specifically to take call about today's webinars. Virtual training can be arranged to help support you in building your knowledge on today's solutions, and we'll include contact details on how to reach our active UK sales team. Please familiarise yourselves with the content and solutions and start today by contacting customers past and present to inform them that you have solutions to support making their buildings become COVID-19 secure. All the products and solutions that you've seen in today's webinar are available through your preferred distribution partner. Thank you for joining me on today's webinar. I'm now going to take you through a few of the most frequently asked questions. In the Occupancy Manager feature, we mentioned multiple screens around the building. How would these screens be added to the system, and are they specific screens? So each area can be designated its own web page from the Net2 software, and then any networked screen can simply browse to that web page. Is the HTML view customizable? So can we show occupancy levels without personal details? The answer is yes. So the system has been designed to allow you to remove the user details from the screen if you wish to, so you can just show the occupancy level there instead. Yes, so will the occupancy feature trigger a relay output? And yes, you can set the Net2 system up to do that and then trigger an output through triggers and actions. Will the features of occupancy control be available via the app? So this is not currently on the roadmap, but all feature requests are passed to our product managers for consideration. With the alerts and entry denial options for the occupancy management, can these be set independently, i.e. 95% full sends an alert and 100% full denies access? And yes, the Net2 software will allow you to set these thresholds to achieve that. Can staff be manually removed from an area? For example, if someone follows someone else out of the building. So the system has been designed that if a user was to tailgate someone out of area 1 and they badge into area 2, the system will automatically delete them from area 1 and add them to area 2 when they badge in, but this can also be done as a manual operation as well. Do we have a solution for schools? So schools are not mentioned in today's webinar as they already have specific working with COVID-19 guidelines. Today's solutions are valid solutions for schools, but we suggest you ask to see the guidelines in place at the school and then look to match these requirements to the solutions that we've shared today. Will thermal cameras also be compatible with Paxton 10? So this isn't currently on the roadmap, but all feature requests are passed to our product managers for consideration. Again, I'd like to thank you for your time. I hope that's been informative for you, and hopefully I will speak to you again soon. Many thanks.